I believe that the leadership of the society has learned its lesson from the year 2001, when, in the wake of the Jubilee, there was a great deal of friendliness between the Roman authorities and some of the high-up priests in the Society of Pius X. And in the early months of 2001, a deal seemed possible and seemed attractive to a number of people, including some authorities in the society. But I think that stage is past, and then, of course, what's happened to Campos should have opened eyes, and everything that's gone on in the church since. So I think the leadership of the Society of Pius X has learned its lesson, if to the extent that it needed to learn a lesson, but after those tempting days of friendship following the Jubilee. But the devil will be back. I think what saved the society, I said so in writing at the time, is that the society has now, all over the world, a lot of priests down at grassroots level, hundreds of priests, not all that many hundreds, 300, 400 priests, at grassroots level, looking after souls and looking after the salvation of souls, saying their prayers, being faithful priests, and attempting to save souls. And that's humble work, which God blesses. And as long as the majority of society priests are doing that humble and godly work, I don't think God will allow the society to fall into the arms of corrupt Rome.
What would it take for a deal between the Society of St. Pius X and Rome to actually work? What would have to happen first?
Okay, it goes either of two ways. If the society grows corrupt, then a corrupt deal is easy. If Rome converts, then a deal is also easy. There's no problem. If Rome gets back, if the Romans re-understand and get back to the true religion, then the society is their best friend, and they've got no more problem with the society. And it's child's play to reintegrate the society into the structures of Rome. But so long as Rome is with the new religion and the society stays with the old, there can only be war between the old religion and the new religion. So either Rome abandons the new religion or the society abandons the old religion. That's what's got to happen before there can be any agreement.
So again, we come back to doctrine, that it's a difference in belief that's causing this conflict, and
Absolutely.
that can't be papered over with negotiation.
Absolutely. As the Archbishop said, we've gone past the stage of diplomacy. This problem is too deep, it's too serious, and it's too doctrinal to be resolved by maneuvers of diplomacy.
Do you think that the fact that the indult is working so poorly, and I could give a number of examples of that. For example, in the Archdiocese of Toronto, there was a case where at an indult mass, they imposed communion on the hand, and the reason they gave it was because of the SARS epidemic in Toronto. Do you think that the fact that the indult is working so poorly is really a symptom of the problem?
Yes, of course, because the indult is a measure in favor of the old religion. So if the indult is in the hands of the new religion will do its best to shut it down. So again and again, you see the indult being derailed. It's again the foxes in charge of the hen house. The indult is like hen protection waistcoat, which the hens put on to protect them from foxes. Do you imagine the foxes are going to gladly hand out hen protection waistcoats inside the hen house? Of course they aren't. The foxes are going to do everything they can to get these hen protection waistcoats out of the way so that they can quietly and comfortably eat all the remaining hens. It's as clear as day.
Now, you have an interesting phenomena to raise the subject of the indult, is that the history of the last 20 or so years has been Rome making initiative after initiative in favor of traditionalists, and then these initiatives always seem to get derailed, or they don't work.
Well, Rome doesn't want them to work. They're designed to deceive traditionalists and or pull traditionalists into the new religion. It's like a hand reached out to somebody drowning in the river, and then he thinks he's going to be rescued, and it's as though the hand then simply pulls them even further into the middle of the river and drowns them even more. it's a false hand reached out in rescue. I mean, the foxes do not mean to look after the hens. The foxes mean to eat the hens. It's clear.
So you think perhaps the indult and other initiatives like that is a means of reintegrating traditional Catholics into the current zeitgeist?
It's a means of getting hens into the fox's stomach. It's a means of getting those clinging to the old religion away from the old religion and into the new religion. The one world government wants a one world religion, and it doesn't want any serious resistance to the one world religion. And the problem with tradition is that it's the truth. A system of lies can tolerate any other system of lies, but one system it cannot tolerate is the system of truth, even if it's only a very small system, because that system of truth, since it is the truth, is always liable to grow. Tradition is the truth. And so Rome has got to get rid of Catholic tradition. It's as simple as that.
You had mentioned that Campos isn't exactly working that well then.
From the point of view of tradition, no. Campos, under Bishop de Castromaya, and for 10 years after his death, until 2001, Campos hewed to tradition, clung to tradition, and stood fast for tradition. But now it's abandoning it fast. The Bishop of Campos, who's now Bishop Refan, is attending the new Mass, and he received communion at a new Mass. I think it was a new nuncio in Rio de Janeiro. I forget the exact circumstances. But they're on a slippery slope, and they're not able to stop. Once you put your little finger into the mechanism of liberalism, it will eat your hand, it will eat you to the elbow, it will eat you to the shoulder, and it will eat the whole of the rest of you.
Or let's say once you make one concession, that leads to another,
yes,
then another.
Yes, you can't make any concessions to liberalism. It's a whole ball game, and once you start compromising, it's very difficult, very, very difficult to stop.
Yet another way of looking at it too, though, is each time that Rome makes what looks like a concession to tradition, they're continuing to give a little bit more each time. Like, let's say, first in 1984, it was the indult. They just gave the Mass. Then in 1986, there was Mater Ecclesia providing a whole seminary. Then in 1988, there was the Fraternity St. Peter, which they provided an organization. Now in Campos, they've also allowed a traditional bishop. What accounts for this phenomena?
Well, the fox wants the hens, but it wants to give away as little as it can in order to get the hens. So it starts by giving, let's say, a third, then it gives a half, then it gives 3/4, 2/3, then it gives 3/4, then it gives 7/8. But the fox knows perfectly well that so long as it doesn't give 8/8, so long as it doesn't give everything away, the hen is going to compromise, and the fox knows that once the hen makes a compromise, the hen is in the fox's control. So the fox can afford to reach out further and further and further towards the hen, but as long as the hen is compromising still at the end, there's no danger for the fox. It will still be able to eat the hen. In the latest negotiations, such as I know of, the latest offer, such as I know of, between Rome and the Society of St. Pius X, there's still, I think Bishop Furley said, the insistence upon Vatican II and the new Mass. Those are the two key points. And whatever kind of agreement we went into with Rome, Rome would insist in one form or another upon the practice of the principles of the new religion, which is Vatican II, and the practice of the new religion, which is the new Mass. And if the society accepted any kind of compromise on either of those two things, the society would be finished. Its resistance for the sake of the truth and its defense of the truth would be finished.